Like, whoa, you can join a company and get paid 100% commission, put it all on a spreadsheet. And I'm like, oh, if I had like 100 agents, this would be like pretty good. I didn't know what I didn't know. I had about 300 agents as a 25-year-old broker.
Wow. So Robert, if you'll remove the title of founder, what actually drives you in real estate?
Well, that is a great question. And I am not privy to any of these questions in advance. So we're just going for it. But what drives me is truly watching and participating in whatever small way that I'm able to contribute to see professionals truly have life-changing breakthroughs with their finances and their career in real estate. Because for me, this career has provided more to me than I ever thought was possible whenever I first started out. Yeah. And I'm in a really fortunate position that I see now people who are taking dream vacations that they never thought could be possible. They're treating themselves to fancy cars that are, aspirational goals that they had that they never thought that would be attained. And so for me to be able to witness that and to play whatever small part I can in helping people on their journey, that's really at the end of the day, that's what gets me going.
That's great. Great answer.
Yeah.
Thank you. So you've seen a lot of real estate models from the inside. If was there a specific moment in time, and I know we've talked a lot about this, but like what was that specific moment where you just started to think about the industry has a real problem and you needed to solve it?
That's another great one. So the industry's problem was my problem whenever I started this model, which was like a flat fee, 100% commission type of a model. And so I started as a realtor when I was 19 years old. I actually started in real estate earlier than that at 15, illegally driving around with my learner's permit. My dad had a property management company. We lived on an island, Siesta Key. So it wasn't like dangerous and it wasn't anything like super criminal, but I would like go around the corner in our Jeep and meet somebody at a house and then walk them through and take their application. So I've been in real estate, essentially my entire life, even beyond, before my adult life even. And when I became a realtor, I guess to give a little context, Sarasota at the time was a bit sleepier, and most of my pals I was in school with, they just couldn't wait to get out of here. They wanted to go to college and go off to another town and pursue their careers. Sure. And I don't know, the way I saw it, I was fortunate to grow up with a boat, and I did a lot of fishing, and I was like, it's really not so bad around here. I think I'm all right just to be here. But at the time, real estate was pretty much the only logical conclusion that an ambitious person could come to do as a career. This was before like working remote or, really before the internet had even became as proliferated as it is now. Mm-hmm. So I became a realtor. I wasn't great at it, but I was good at numbers. I was good at investments. And so I tried to sell houses to the general population. Didn't do a great job about talking up properties and helping people like see the vision of what it would be like to live there. But I could find good deals, and I could talk about what those properties would cash flow for and the equity that you'd have to buy it a little bit below its intrinsic value and so on and so forth. Right. So I did that. I started selling properties to investors, and when I saved enough of my commissions, I started buying and selling properties mostly for myself. And that's where the problem came in, because I was working at another national franchise that was one of the more costly franchises to be affiliated with. It was at the time, I want to say about $1,200 or $1,500 a month just to be affiliated with the office. And then there was additional splits and fees and things like that. And I thought, if I could just keep 100% of my own commission, then that would like improve the situation quite a lot, especially, to have more funds to roll into my investments. And so right about that time, I actually started my own brokerage for no other purpose than to just save money on doing my own deals. Sure. And there was another company, the first that I'm aware of, that happened to open up in Florida as well, that offered a 100% commission comp plan. And it was, I want to say right about 2002 or 3, if I'm not mistaken. Mm-hmm. I think 2003. So I saw this solicitation to be like, whoa, you can join a company and get paid 100% commissions. I'm like, oh man, if I would have seen this, I wouldn't have even had to bother starting my own company. So it was shortly thereafter, after I saw that model, I decided, I put it all on a spreadsheet. And it's funny, I was a pretty young man. Yeah, I was I think 23 years old. And I put it all on a spreadsheet. And I'm like, oh, if I had like 100 agents, this would be like pretty good. And, and I didn't know what I didn't know, because it was a lot harder to execute and operate in real life than it was. But it's kind of interesting that it was just a couple years after I opened. And again, I'm nearly certain that was 2003. By 2005, give or take, I had about 300 agents as a 25-year-old broker.
Wow.
And it did work out pretty good as it looked on the spreadsheet, although it was definitely more complex in real life than it was on paper.
Isn't it always?
Yeah, but that was the story to how the model kind of began, and I've been a part of this 100% commission model really from the inception, and have helped, I guess, pioneer the way that it works in a lot of ways. And it's a very fair arrangement for agents. And there's different levels of what's possible with different brokerages, but the aim that we've always had is to be high class at a fair cost. Whereas sometimes there are brokers with advantageous commission splits or fee structures, but maybe it doesn't match the elevation of the customers that you're working with more affluent people and luxury properties and stuff. So we've always tried to keep our marketing aimed in that direction.
That's great. Well said. So as we kind of go from like the inception forward, this is your third billion-dollar company, right? Mm-hmm. So walk me through the path that actually led you to build this to the level that it is today. Not the highlight reel, the actual path. Like we talked about the history of it, but as you launch Preferred Shore and moving forward, like talk me through the history of the firm. Yeah,
so I never really had like $1 billion top line sales as a goal or a target. Mm-hmm. It was just it just was a product of doing the right thing daily, treating people well, and just just doing a lot of deals. I mean, at the end of the day, to do $1 billion a year in top line sales, I mean, you're doing at least 1,500 to 2,000 transactions a year.
Right.
So there's a lot of talented agents, but there's very few, if any of them, that could do all of that by themselves, myself included. I could never do that by myself. So then, of course, it's a matter of learning how to work well with very productive people, with top producing agents, to be able to provide value to them. And in terms of the history, the first iteration was essentially, I didn't even intend to really be a broker. It was kind of by accident. I was buying properties from listing agents, and then they were like, oh, you got your broker license, and we kind of like how you do business. So have you ever considered having agents affiliate with you? I'm like, no, not really, but like, all right, let's see how this goes. So that was, again, that was more of a traditional type of a model until I found the 100% commission model. But then, after that, that's what really was the impetus that caused adding a lot of fuel to the fire to support having a lot of agents join and quality agents join. And it was interesting that it tended to attract more quality agents because it was a little lower level of service from the brokerage standpoint, especially early on, because the main attractant was the fee structure. Over time, it's evolved to now, become more robust and offer more services to agents. But that's essentially the history. And there was never really a specific target to hit $1 billion. And but with the exception with Preferred Shore, we were kind of eyeing that that number, and now we've set our sights even higher. It's like, all right, we got that done, and what's next?
What's next? Exactly. So, a lot of that, from conversations that we've had, we talk about like where the firm's been and where it's going and what you've gone through. Like, did you find yourself that you were kind of looking around and noticing that there was a lot of stuff that other brokers either weren't noticing or were choosing not to really act on?
I've paid a particularly low amount of attention to other brokers and competitors, because in part I don't want to inhibit my creativity by being skewed with what other people are doing. And I do enjoy reading. I'm a curious person, and I love studying business. So I would find myself looking for smart ideas in non-correlated industries. So I would see some practices that companies were doing in other entirely different industries, and then try to implement them here. But there is always a relentless pursuit for just improvement, for striving for perfection, which will never be attained. But that is definitely the mindset I have. This, I guess, curiosity that's unending, where I'm just always looking for innovative ideas. So it's kind of like Sam Walton with Walmart, where from the stories I've read, he wasn't necessarily like the smartest operator, but nobody had ever went into more stores than he did. And, he would go into these stores that were just shambles, and they weren't operated well. They probably weren't even profitable in a lot of cases, but he'd see one thing and be like, oh, did you see the brilliance of this candle display?
Right.
And he would just take those types of ideas and then he would implement them in his own store. And so that's kind of like the mindset and the eye that I've always had. I'm always asking myself, why isn't this done? This is something that should be, and why don't we implement this?
That's great. That's great. All right. So talk to me about the professional who's done everything right, built a team, hit the production numbers, earned the respect of their peers, industry, and customers, and yet somewhere in the back of their mind, there's this feeling that they just can't shake. What's that feeling, and why is it so common at the top?
Well, that's an interesting question. My perception, having been a top producing agent and team leader for many years before being solely a broker owner and operator, is that you just feel like your business is more fragile than it actually is. And it's easy to feel that way because, of course, you're only as good as your last transaction.
Sure.
And then you only have so many months out of a pipeline that's visible that you can see.
Right.
But if you're actually doing the work and reaching out to customers as you should and following through with all of the steps, it's inevitable that business will continually be able to be generated. And of course, there are some market conditions that are more favorable than others. But I did, after a while, learn to lean into the slower times and just enjoy. Mm-hmm. Because what I have seen a lot of even very successful top producing agents who have cash reserves and have made a lot of money and have been smart about putting it away. Whenever the cash flow dips temporarily for a little bit, instead of rejuvenating themselves with a slower pace, and maybe if you're somewhere that there's recreational activities, go to the beach, hike a mountain, whatever. Instead of enjoying, they're kind of like running this loop in their mind, stressing themselves out, like, oh, where's my next deal coming from? And if you're as you become confident in the process and that you're applying the effort and you're taking the right steps, just whenever you're served with an opportunity to take a little break, then take it. But that would be my guess.
Okay. So we know that real estate rewards production, right? But production typically has a ceiling for a lot of them, right? You can only close so many deals. You can only manage so many agents. What are the options that a high performer typically has when they hit that wall? And why do most of those options feel like a lateral move?
Great question. So, the answer to that is scale.
Right. Yep.
Scaling can be difficult and awkward for a myriad of reasons.
Sure.
But, I was faced with this type of a conundrum earlier on when I was a productive solo agent and then became a team leader. And so, it's part of developing a mindset where you're willing to be more generous, to make room for people to flourish and thrive within an ecosystem that you create. So at a very simple level, when I was at that type of a crossroads, the average house in the market I was in was, call it, about $200,000 at the time. Mm-hmm. So I decided that, I'm not going to personally get involved in any deals under $300,000 anymore to open up more capacity for me to be able to work with higher level accounts that I was seeking. And then I was going to enlist a person or two to help me that I could take on to help all of those customers that fell under that threshold.
Gotcha.
So that was an awkward decision at the time because I had built a business and I had a lot of referrals and a lot of contacts. And then whenever, I'd get like a $200,000 slam dunk listing opportunity, I'd be like, oh, this is going to be an easy one. It'll probably sell like the same week it hits the MLS.
Yeah.
But I really was committed to my plan, and I would tell myself that, Robert, there was a smarter version of yourself that made these rules whenever you were planning for the future that you're trying to create. So honor those rules that you put into place. And so point being, I could have kept the entire commission and just handled it, but I had enough respect for myself that I was going to stick to the plan that I made and then forfeit half of the commission that, I could have probably easily earned. But then it did free up my capacity, and then my pipeline did fill with the type of business that I intended. And then it's just, you just move up to the next level. So I guess that's the best way I could speak to that.
Okay, great. So most professionals in the industry have never been offered a genuine path to ownership or partnership at the firm level, right? Why do you think that is? And what does the absence actually cost someone over the course of their career?
Well, that's a profound one. So the reason that most people probably haven't been offered equity in their brokerage operation or whatever, of course, is it's obvious it cannibalizes the broker's profit.
Sure.
I've never had that type of a mindset where I'm trying to hoard value and keep it all for myself. I'm actually trying to do the opposite, where I create conditions that enable people to thrive and to enjoy some of the benefits that I've been fortunate to enjoy.
Sure.
And so similarly, we have a tandem competing comp plan within our own company that nobody else that I've seen is also offering, where we offer 100% commission, but we also offer more service at a more traditional type of a split. Well, the companies that offer more services generally don't want to offer 100% commission because, of course, they don't want to cannibalize their revenues from their more profitable side of operations, supposing they're operating it properly. So that would be, with a similar train of thought, why whenever I was really brainstorming what I'd like to do to provide value to people in the future, I thought about how profound it was for me to be able to tie in to the broker side of revenue. And, in full disclosure, you do make more money being a productive agent than you do operating a brokerage. Operating a brokerage is relatively boring. However, it's very stable and it's very predictable. Right. And there's something to be said for stable and predictable cash flow.
That's right. Sure.
So that would be, I think, where the most profound change for most entrepreneurs would be, is that if there was a way to enjoy broker level revenue that offers a degree of stability and security as you're going about developing your sales production business, that puts you in a much less vulnerable position and helps you approach your operations much more strategically.
Yeah, I would wholeheartedly agree. How often do you hear someone privately admit that they wish there was just more? Robert, like more upside, more ownership, more of a reason to go bigger. And what does that conversation actually look like?
That's a great question, and it's something that I have thought about a lot, and I've dealt with a lot with top producing agents and consults, where for most people, they haven't really thought about what the target is. And to me, success is simply hitting a target, which is something altogether different than finding fulfillment or happiness in your work, where I would say that happiness is wanting what you get.
Sure.
But success is hitting a target. And sometimes in business, I wouldn't confuse the two, where, sometimes it is a relentless pursuit of attaining the goal, hitting the target.
Right.
And sometimes you're not happy in that pursuit, and that's okay. But you don't want to be unhappy in life, because, if you're successful and you're still not happy or fulfilled, then that's a pretty miserable place to be. So I think that the most important thing that I do with agents is to help them articulate what the target is that they're moving towards, so that we can make a plan and then we can hit that target. Because if you have an unending desire to do more, it's just going to frustrate yourself. Sure. Because desire is a contract that you make with yourself to be miserable until you get what you want. So if you're in that unending path of like, oh, I want more, but you haven't really thought that through, then you also oftentimes have conflicting desires, which are equally miserable and cause you to suffer unnecessarily. Absolutely. So, anybody could want like a big fancy yacht or a nice car or whatever, but you also want to have a secure retirement. Well, those two things might be at odds. That like, I just blew $500,000 on a yacht, but now I don't have money for my retirement or whatever. So I think it's important just to take like a step back and be like, all right, what are my values that are most important to me? Understanding that like, it's not likely that you're going to have it all. You have to make some compromises, and then being like really direct and clear about what that target is, and being okay with that.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you. So this feeling, that we were talking about, it's quite common, and I think that there's a challenge around like, why aren't more people acting on chasing that and moving forward? Like, what keeps high achievers so anchored to a model that they know is not giving them everything that they're capable of building?
I think people are just, they're averse to change. And rightly so.
Agreed.
I mean, we all have had experiences where we've made adverse decisions and we made life changes. We're like, that wasn't such a great idea. So I respect that.
Or not so bad, right? I mean, it could go either way. But.
So I respect anybody being thoughtful about making a big change with their career, especially, as it relates to their financial well-being and their income and things. But also it makes a lot of sense to be aware that sometimes a lot of energy is being expended in a model that is diverting a lot of revenue away that could be really beneficial to go build your business with. And so I would encourage anybody to be open-minded versus just being like super loyal and diligent to one particular brand. And I always am curious to have conversations to see what else is going on in the world. I mean, I have zero interest whatsoever in selling this company, Preferred Shore, and I'm still a relatively young broker, and I have children that might take over someday. Who knows? Not that I aspire for that to be the case, but whenever they'll call and they'll ask if for private equity or whatever to try to buy us, and I'm always like, make me your offer. Like, this is what we got, and I'm just curious to see what's out there. And then the way that it becomes constructive, though, and this is what I would encourage agents to do with other brokers, is to find angles and things that you can learn and things that you can ask that make these types of encounters beneficial. And so, sometimes I'll throw out like a crazy idea, and I'd be like, what would it take for this company to be worth $100 million? And they'd be like, in order for you to be worth $100 million, you'd have to do this, 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 and this. And then I'm like, all right, well, there's my business plan for the next year. I need to do, so I think that just be open.
Be open. Yeah. I think that's great advice. It really is, because I think so many times in the course of mine as well, I've seen individuals just not remain open, and they've missed opportunities that really could have been to their benefit. So I think that's a great answer. So thank you for that.
Of course.
All right, so let's define it. Like, when you say EP or the executive proprietor, like, what does that actually mean at Preferred Shore? Not the tagline, but the real substance.
Yeah, I mean, it's a true full-fledged partnership with myself directly. Yep. That's what it is at the essence. Yeah. And I really feel like this is the right model for our culture and for what I feel great about, because it gives me an ability to provide more than just a system or more than just a platform. Mm-hmm. It's a true partnership where we can work together to develop the targets, hit those targets together, and to help somebody really create a systematic, sustainable, repetitive, recurring income stream that can augment and support their sales efforts in their production career, where starting other franchises or opening a company and a brokerage in other capacities would really detract from a productive agent's production, where now they have to staff up and create systems and do compliance and do a bunch of stuff. So for me, it feels great to be able to offer a really well oiled machine and a team of staff and software licenses and systems and everything that's already assembled, so that the person in production can continue that and maintain that stream of income, but not have to take their eye off of the ball of what really is the main thing, which is your sales, but then build something that continues to augment that and to reinforce the success in the sales career.
That's a great point, because so often when we see industry colleagues, peers, et cetera. You made a point there about like, if they're in production and they decide to really go that ownership track, like they have to hit the skids, right? Like they have to put the brakes on, and they really just have to put everything into that other basket, right? So it's a change of focus and everything else. So perfect. I appreciate that. So this one I really was thinking about. I chewed on this quite a bit. Like the word ownership gets used in real estate a lot, and it's often shorthand, as we often see, for nothing. However, when an EP has ownership stake in a market, what does that specifically mean for them?
That's a great question. So it is a new Florida LLC entity that we partner on together that has a willable, sellable, transferable value.
Yes.
That they actually
bigger than
own.
Nothing. Much bigger than nothing.
That's right.
Yes.
Yep. So that's in a nutshell what it is.
That's awesome. Good. One of the things that we hear from entrepreneurs that about going independent, often that means going alone, right? So what is Preferred Shore actually providing to the EP so that they're not just handed a territory and told good luck like we see a lot of franchisees experience, right? For those that would be maybe wondering and watching us today, like what does day one look like for the new EP? What do they think, what's hard? Like what's unclear? What do they need to figure out?
Yeah. So there's quite a lot that's provided where the idea is that for the agents in production, they should be able to continue in production and not detract from those efforts. And the only thing that they would really be adding is creating recruitment opportunities where they don't even have to follow through with the whole appointment. They just have to say, hey, are you open to meeting Frank or Olga or someone on our team that can fill in their recruit about the opportunity to join Preferred Shore. So just make those connections and then build culture with their group. It might start out a little on the small side, like a dozen or so agents, and then grow over time. But, create maybe monthly opportunities for broker opens or things that enable them to build some culture and have some camaraderie with the agents that they've developed. And then just do surface support, whenever your group of agents are like, where do I get a logo? How do I get a copy of the E&O policy or whatever? just basic support like that. But we do literally all the rest, which is quite a lot, and I'm sure I'll omit something. But, on our side, there's a lot of regulatory compliance. There's document storage and review. There's disbursements. There's tax matters. There's software, the licensing and adding seats to all the software. There's I know I'm forgetting stuff, but there's like a lot.
The engine.
There's a lot of things. And then, of course, not the least of which is the whole team that powers all of this, that we're available for that support. But aside from that, I mean, not to toot my own horn so much, but it's a partnership where the executive proprietor also gets access to myself to have conversations where it's like, hey, what you been doing? How's it working? Maybe you should apply more energy to this, and this, and maybe a little less of that. And, I think that those encounters can be very insightful and effective to keep somebody from expending too much energy doing the wrong thing. Yeah.
So you touched on a piece, and I wanted to kind of circle back on this because I think this is a misnomer for a lot of people. The focus around recruiting is, I think in so many cases, people, when they think of recruiting, there's a negative connotation to it, right? Because they've experienced a negative recruiting process from someone, unfortunately.
Sure.
But the reality of this is it's really just about establishing and building relationships.
Correct.
It's not, I feel like in many cases we overcomplicate the process, and it's just build the relationships with people that you want to be in business with. And from that leads to opportunities where, if you want to call it recruiting, we have an opportunity to get into business with each other.
Agreed. So the way that I would think about recruiting, which is really just sales of, sales of any kind is kind of all in the same basket, is that I don't feel like I've ever sold anything to anyone in my entire career. So the trick is that you genuinely have to believe that the information that you have about whatever product or service or an opportunity to join a company is so great that you feel compelled to save somebody from the misfortune of not being aware of what is possible out there. So to me, that's what recruiting really is at its highest form. And so, the the trick is you have to actually believe that.
That's true.
So if you're, so if you're aligned with the model that's not the case, then that's a little bit problematic.
Sure.
But that's what I've always tried to do with this platform, is to create it and engineer it and refine it in a way that it always stays relevant and that we always do feel that compelled to share this information with people.
Yeah. It's interesting. You talk about believing in it. It should be a fairly easy thing, considering a big chunk of that, right? The partnership is them believing in themselves, right? Mm-hmm. Like, hey, part of you coming in and working with me is working with me and what I'm offering you, along with this partnership and all the other bells and whistles that come with being part of Preferred Shore. So really shouldn't be that big of a stretch, right?
It shouldn't be.
That's right. So without getting into too many specifics around proprietary information or things of that nature on today's call, but help us understand the economic architecture of the model. Like, what does the upside actually come from for an EP?
Yeah, I mean, in the simplest context, from building a team of agents and from those agents actually selling real estate, because it's not very profitable if there's no sales.
Sure.
But the way that we created the model is we wanted a very easy path for somebody to take the costs of formation and be able to earn that back within their first year being an EP with us. So it's a pretty simple plan.
Perfect. So I want to ask you about fit. Who is this genuinely built for, and who should probably not raise their hand? And I have another follow-up to that, so I want you to think about that is, are there any outlier scenarios that you would also anticipate as a fit as well?
Yeah, that's interesting. As I've been fortunate. I've been in a position now. I've literally hired thousands of realtors through our various brokerage brands over the years, and I still can't pick who will and who won't. Well,
sure. Yeah.
And because really the key ingredient always comes down to hunger. Because I've seen plenty of people that look the part and they can talk well, and I would think like, oh, this person's going to do great. Then I've seen others that I'm like, it's not my first pick, but right. they were so hungry, they were starving.
Yeah.
And I don't mean that like literally like they couldn't pay their bills, like they were just hungry to win and to succeed, and so they put in the work that ended up producing tremendous results. And so, similarly, that's probably going to be the case with something like this. But, attributes that are important to have to be a broker owner, essentially, are simply enjoying and genuinely caring about people, being willing to align with them in a way that contributes to their success, and being open to talking to people about a better opportunity in their market to join Preferred Shore. And, if you care about people, trying to do a good job, and you don't mind sharing the message, then odds are you'll probably do really well.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah. So when we talk about the partnerships obviously run both ways. So in your opinion, what's the value of this model to the future of Preferred Shore?
So there's a tremendous mutual value for all parties where we really are in a place, and I'll share a little bit of background that we all go through difficulties in life, and unfortunately I lost my father about 2 years ago, and in that reflection I was thinking, what's a way that I could make a bigger impact? And I've done a nice job of helping agents and real estate professionals sell more homes, and that's great.
Right.
But again, I felt like I was just stopping a touch short of some of the benefits in the real estate career that I've been able to enjoy. And so when I was thinking, how can I make a bigger impact that brings our brand to other markets, that we can have exposure to people who may really benefit from this, I determined that this partnership type of a model would be the very best way to do that. And so by enabling others to tap into broker level of revenue that really stabilizes their business and helps them create a routine and predictable income, I know that will be life-changing for the people that we partner with, but it also will be extraordinarily beneficial for our Preferred Shore brand to proliferate into other very important and strategic markets. So that's why I'm passionate to go do this. Luckily, I've kind of figured out the Rubik's Cube for myself financially, but now it's not so much about me, it's about seeing what's possible to help others really have some life-changing breakthroughs with their career.
So paint me a picture. 5 years from now, when all of this comes to fruition as you've envisioned it, what does the Preferred Shore EP network actually look like?
Well, that's a great question, because it's hard to quantify lives touched, which is really the ultimate goal.
Right.
But I would feel personally fulfilled in terms of putting a target out there that, if there's something we're aiming for, call it, 100 lives that we've touched that are in markets, representing our brand well, enjoying some truly life-changing breakthroughs that may not have been afforded to them without having a platform to handle the operations like we do. So we'll see how that goes. Time will tell.
There you go. All right. So for an EP who comes in and really runs this well, right? Like, what does their life look like in a 5-year period that's materially different from the path that they would have stayed on?
That's a great one. So, this is a math problem more than anything, because your success or revenue at least relates to the size of the group that you're interested in building. So for a lot of our EPs, it's likely, if they're diligent, they follow through, this isn't like a guaranteed success type of a thing.
Sure.
But if you're doing it to a reasonable extent, it's not that difficult to build up a business of a couple $100,000 a year in gross revenue, or maybe more if you build it larger. And for a lot of people, I mean, that's life-changing money, especially if you're living off of your sales production, and then you have that extra funds to invest in the future and plan for retirement, and maybe buy some income properties and things like that. So, and then it's also interesting because I've experienced this in my own life that sometimes just taking the pressure off. Whenever you know that, even if I never sell another house, I'm okay.
Right.
But then for whatever reason, when you're approaching the market in that state of calm, it enables you to be more productive in your sales career as well, because you're not like trying so hard. And what I found with success, it's really interesting that, of course, you have to have goals and be striving for more.
Sure.
So you have to know what you want, but you can't want it that bad.
Right.
So it's kind of a weird thing. You have to hold success loosely. And I think that maybe is what this enables for a lot of people. That's like, even if I don't sell any houses this year, I'm all right.
Yeah.
But because of that, they'll probably sell more houses.
Yeah, that's interesting. I also, let's talk a little bit more about something that we know that does go through, whether they're conscious about it or not. There is something that we call production fatigue, right? So high performers, even team leaders that are running productive teams, like there's a constant, we got to go, right? And the reality is that is not a permanent, sustainable process, right?
Correct.
That there is a point where we just hit, okay, what is my alternative? What's the option that I have that can run in parallel, like you're talking about, that gives you that peace? How do you see this really playing into somebody that's experiencing that production fatigue, that's been doing this at a high level for a long time?
Yeah, well, that there's a lot of strategic ways to address that. And it's something that I solved for myself after having gone broke in the last recession. I was a workaholic prior to that, and I decided at that moment that I wasn't going to be a workaholic anymore, no matter what. And of course, I want to build my business and I want to grow, but I figured out how to bracket it into, essentially banker's hours. I mean, there would be times that there would be an exception to that when, you got a deal in the ditch or something. But that's where when I was rebuilding after that last market cycle in the Great Recession, I decided, I'm going to build a team, leverage the efforts of others in a very fair and equitable way that I could create opportunities for them, and I could vicariously accomplish the things that I'm looking to do with them and through them, and then still be a part of it, and then just kind of be smart about growing and scaling that way. So for those that are just too busy and they are getting burnt out and they kind of can't figure out how to handle that, it's a variety of factors that often relate to letting go of some of the processes, understanding that just because somebody that you delegate to doesn't do it your way doesn't mean it's not a better way. I mean, I've delegated things to people quite a lot lately, and they do things a lot better than I would have done it. So I think it's being open to delegate, it's being open to bringing talent and attracting people to work with. It's about being generous with people and realizing that, like, if you keep yourself more in your element and you preserve your energy, that you can be a rainmaker to create more opportunities for everybody, yourself included, and then stay in alignment with what actually fulfills you versus, burning out and doing stuff that kind of is upsetting.
Yeah. No, well said. Well said. Thank you. We're finding ourselves in a market that's really experiencing a lot of real compression to our industry and consolidation around our industry. If somebody's thinking through, like, is this now actually a smart time for me to make this kind of move, or does this require a little bit of a leap of faith?
I mean, entrepreneurship always requires faith, and you have to make a plan and be strategic, and then the third part of that is accept the risk.
Sure.
There's a risk to everything. There's a risk to me walking across the street to get a coffee later on. So I think that what I have found in many years of entrepreneurship is that in times of transition are often the greater opportunities, and especially as it relates to growing a brokerage brand and attracting agents to join. When things are pretty even keeled and people are happy, they're reluctant to be open to making a change.
Sure.
And whenever there is so many consolidations and mergers and strange things going on in the industry with NAR settlements and all kinds of stuff, that's when people are kind of like, I don't know what's going on, and I might need to do some fancy footwork to survive. And that's, because that's really what at the fundamental level agents are considering when they're considering changing and joining another brokerage is, is this going to help me financially survive?
Right.
And I think that given all the unusual things going on in this market cycle, I think it's a brilliant time.
Yeah, no, I would agree. And thinking about the whole thing, if somebody was sitting there thinking like, do I need to take this leap of faith? Like, is there really a necessity for having a leap of faith? And where I'm going with that, Robert, is you're a 3-time proven successful broker, right? You've built organizations time and time again through multiple different market cycles and things of that nature. You're partnering to offer the guidance and experience, expertise to that person that's now saying, I'm taking that leap, right? Mm-hmm. Is it really a faithful leap of like, with a question mark? It isn't. It's there's proven models, proven firm, proven business leader. That's what you're partnering with. It's really more of really the only leap of faith is on what they're doing on the other end, right?
Right.
As far as partnering, that's more of a sure-footing opportunity, I would think.
Yeah, well, thank you for saying that. And, when it comes to entrepreneurship, you get stuck in analysis paralysis by not making decisions. And so I think the important thing is that you make a decision and then you make it right. Sometimes it's not the right decision, but, as long as you're moving, you can always, figure out how to progress from wherever you found yourself. So I think that, you just got to move forward, and sometimes if you don't make the right decision, then just make it right.
Make an adjustment. Yeah, I do. I think the time is right. So I've got just 2 more for you. So you're undoubtedly going to build meaningful relationships with these EPs, right? What do you personally need from them to make this work, and what are you looking for beyond just somebody's resume?
Yeah, we love working with enthusiastic, positive people. Yep. And that meaning, genuine enthusiasm where, in spite of this being a tough business at times, in spite of misdirected anger from customers and otherwise at times, to be able to be professional and to have high integrity, to know that, at the end of the day, you've done the right thing as best you can by all parties and represent the brand well, be willing to share the opportunity from a position of, again, being so compelled that everybody needs to be aware that this opportunity is available because you feel like it truly is superior and everything else is inferior out there. And so just be a great brand ambassador and be a great representation of the company, and we'll help you build your business.
I love it. And I love that term. I love that brand ambassador term. Mm-hmm. So my last one, and I'd like for you to sort of answer this as if we're speaking directly to the person right now as you've envisioned this whole thing, right? Mm-hmm. The one who's been in the industry for years, who's been good at what they do, they've achieved something bigger, but they know that there's a ceiling that's above them that they just can't push through alone. What do you say to that person? This
business can reward you in ways that are probably bigger than are even imaginable or understandable.
Agreed.
And you don't always have all the answers, but sometimes you can feel very strongly that you're being called to lead others and to help others in a way that is very symbiotic and mutually beneficial, that helps you hit your targets, that fulfills you quite a lot, that opens doors for really great things to happen. And, sometimes you don't see the entire path, but if it's like a pathway in the dark and you got a flashlight, you can only see 10 or 15 feet in front of you. And I would encourage anybody, if you feel compelled that there's a way to genuinely help and support others and also hit your targets as well, that you take the first steps and the path continues to illuminate as you go. But this business has been absolutely unbelievably life-changing for myself and my family, and I have no doubt that for anybody willing to apply themselves and to be diligent, that it could be life-changing for you as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't agree more. So always a pleasure, Robert. Thank you for today.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.